British national, commonly known as BNO, is one of the major classes of British nationality under British nationality law. Holders of this nationality are British nationals and Commonwealth citizens, but not British citizens. The nationality itself does not grant right of abode anywhere in the world, including United Kingdom or Hong Kong, but all BNOs are permanent residents of Hong Kong. BNOs are subject to British immigration controls and do not have the automatic right to live or work in the United Kingdom. The British national status was created by the Hong Kong Act 1985 in anticipation of transfer of sovereignty of Hong Kong on July 1, 1997. This nationality was tailor-made for Hong Kong residents with British Dependent Territories citizen status by virtue of their connection with Hong Kong. It allowed the people of Hong Kong to retain a relationship with the United Kingdom after the transfer of sovereignty of Hong Kong to the People's Republic of China. BNOs enjoy consular protection as British nationals would when travelling outside Hong Kong. However, since most BNOs also holds Chinese nationality, they do not enjoy consular protection in Mainland China and Macau, owing to the master nationality rule. From July 1, 1987 to June 30, 1997, nearly 3.4 million of British Dependent Territories citizens in Hong Kong successfully registered for British national. All BDTCs in Hong Kong lost their BDTC status on July 1, 1997, and any BDTC who did not register as a BNO automatically acquired Chinese nationality or British Overseas Citizenship, depending on their ethnicity. BNO status has the following unique characteristics: it could not be acquired through naturalization, and could only be acquired by registration. Voluntary registration was required, as it could not be obtained automatically. In order to be registered as a BNO, one had to be a British Dependent Territories citizen. Therefore, Hong Kong residents who were born in mainland China were required to be naturalized as BDTCs in order to be eligible. It could only be acquired by BDTCs who were born on or before June 30, 1997, and they had to be registered before the deadline of the registration period. After January 1, 1998, it could not be further acquired by any person. It can be held in conjunction with other nationalities or citizenship, including another form of British nationality. Most BNOs are also Chinese nationals, and it's possible to be a British citizen and a BNO at the same time. Children of BNOs who were born after July 1, 1997 cannot acquire BNO status through jus sanguinis, so eventually this status will be extinct. BNO status cannot be restored once renounced. It cannot be terminated automatically, but it can be deprived. British nationals can enter the UK for up to 6 months as a visitor, but must obtain a visa to reside in the UK for activities last longer than 6 months. They also need authorisations to work in the UK. British nationals are legally entitled to hold a passport in that status. British nationals who held no other citizenship on March 19, 2009 are entitled to register as full British citizens. Provisions regarding eligibility to the BNO status can be found in Section 4 of the Hong Kong Order 1986, as amended by Section 2 of the Hong Kong Order 1993. History = background = By the late 1970s, it had become a public concern in British Hong Kong that the 99-year land lease of the new territories, a major region north of Kowloon and Hong Kong Island, to the United Kingdom would expire in around 20 years. Governor McLehose first raised this question during his office in Hong Kong. The public concern immediately resulted in a series of negotiations between the Chinese and British government in the early 1980s on the future prospect of Hong Kong. After rounds of intense negotiations, both countries signed the Sino-British Joint Declaration on December 9, 1984. The declaration stated that the British would give up sovereignty and administration in Hong Kong on July 1, 1997, when China resumes her sovereignty over the city. The signing of this declaration was initially well received by the international community, despite Hong Kong's deep fear of regressing into a socialist communism system of government with totalitarian authorities. As a response to this fear, the late Chairman Deng Xiaoping came up with the promise of one country, two systems. His gesture was able to resume temporarily trust and confidence in the future of Hong Kong. In order to further increase confidence among the British Dependent Territories citizens in Hong Kong, Margaret Thatcher's government introduced a new class of British nationality, through the Hong Kong Act 1985, which was one of the provisions in the United Kingdom Memorandum to the Sino-British Joint Declaration. This would allow the British nationals of Hong Kong to retain an appropriate relationship with the United Kingdom after 1997. Creation of the nationality, Hong Kong Act 1985 the new class of British nationality, known as British National, was created by the Hong Kong Act 1985. This new type of nationality would be granted for life upon successful registration but non-hereditary. British Dependent Territories citizens who chose not to register immediately would remain as such, but cease to be a British national upon their BDTC's expiry on July 1, 1997. The 1985 Act was brought into effect by the Hong Kong Order 1986. Article 4(2) of the Order 1986 gave the provision that adults and minors who had a connection to Hong Kong were entitled to register as British nationals. Becoming a British national was therefore neither an automatic nor an involuntary process. Nevertheless, some eligible people who had the requisite connection with Hong Kong never applied to become British nationals. To make it involuntary or automatic would have been contrary to the assurances as given to the Chinese government. As a result, the words eligible to were chosen for paragraph of the United Kingdom Memorandum to the Sino-British Joint Declaration. Any person, who failed to register as a British national by July 1, 1997 and would thereby be rendered stateless, automatically became a British overseas citizen under Article 6(1) of the Hong Kong Order 1986. The deadline for applications passed in 1997. Acquisition of BNO, after July 1, 1997 it is not possible to gain the British national status after its final registration deadline of December 31, 1997, even by any person who has connections by means of birth or permanent residence in Hong Kong before July 1, 1997. 7. BNO status cannot be passed down to descendants of current BNO, through jus sanguinis, so any children born on or after July 1, 1997 to parents who are British national cannot acquire the status, and they either acquires Chinese nationality or the special status known as British Overseas Citizen, based on their parents' ethnicity. The total population of British national, therefore, would continue to decline over the next decades and eventually be extinct. Registration procedure. The registration process of the British national started on July 1, 1987. Applications were lodged at Hong Kong's Immigration Department, passport offices in the United Kingdom, or British embassies, consulates or diplomatic missions abroad. In the first few years, the majority of BDTC in Hong Kong opted not to register for BNO, so only 15% of the total passport applications in Hong Kong were for the BNO passport. In order to avoid peaks in the registration process towards July 1, 1997, the British government, by means of enacting the Hong Kong Order 1993, divided BDTCs into several groups in 1993 by their year of birth. Each group was given a deadline for registering as BNOs until September 30, 1997. All applicants who did not register within the time frame of their age groups were required to provide a legitimate explanation in writing, or they could be denied registration. The status of BDTC in Hong Kong officially ceased to exist after July 1, 1997. Those who had acquired BDTC between January 1 and June 30, 1997, however, were allowed to register until September 30 of the same year, 3 months after the transfer of sovereignty of Hong Kong. In light of the United Kingdom Memorandum to the Joint Declaration, December 31, 1997 was the last day for any eligible person to register for the British national. British Nationality Selection Scheme . After a brief period of optimism after Deng Xiaoping's promise of retaining Hong Kong's British common law system, safeguarding the independence of judicial proceedings from government intervention and preserving the capitalist market economy. Initial response to the registration for BNO was unenthusiastic. On June 4, 1989, the massacre of unarmed university students in Beijing, however, eliminated the credibility of the Chinese government among the residents of Hong Kong. Under pressure from the Legislative Council of Hong Kong, the Government of United Kingdom created a selection scheme to grant full British citizenship to 50,000 families basing on a meritocratic points system. After the transfer of sovereignty as of December 31, 1997, around 3.4 million of Hong Kong's British Dependent Territories citizens successfully registered as British national, and there were around 2.7 million of British national passports in circulation. About 2 million permanent residents of Hong Kong were not eligible to register for the British national. Many of them were not British Dependent Territories citizens, due to the fact that they had immigrated from mainland China. As a result, these people with Chinese nationality only acquired the permanent residence status of Hong Kong automatically after 7 years of residence. Naturalizing as a BDTC, however, is a separate and voluntary process, so only few of the Chinese immigrants choose to become BDTCs. Thus, almost all of them were unable to obtain passports of any country. As a temporary resolution, the colonial government issued Hong Kong Certificate of Identity, commonly known as CI, as a travel document to these immigrants. Because all CI holders who were born in mainland China were nationals of China, the nationality status of these people remained unchanged after the handover. Some British Dependent Territories citizens were also chosen by the British Nationality Selection Scheme, thus holding full British citizenship. Prior to the transfer of sovereignty, the personal information of BNOs were collected and managed by the Immigration Department of Hong Kong. From 1998, the Hong Kong Regional Passport Processing Centre of the Foreign and Commonwealth Office, a department under the British Consulate General of Hong Kong, took over the responsibility of administering the personal information database of BNO passports and visa requirements for BNO. British nationals are entitled to apply for BNO passports. The design of such passports are the same as the British citizen passports, but without the text European Union on the front cover. All BNO passports issued after 2007 are biometric passports. As of 2012, BNO passport holders enjoy visa-free access to 119 countries. Since 2015, however, the UK government is not seeking further expansion of visa-free travel worldwide for BNO passport holders residing in Hong Kong. Rights and privileges. Civic rights British nationals are Commonwealth citizens and therefore enjoy certain rights when visiting or residing in the United Kingdom. Under British laws, BNOs are not considered foreign nationals in the UK, and BNOs do not require a visa or entry certificate when visiting the United Kingdom for less than 6 months. When residing in the United Kingdom, BNOs have the same rights as Commonwealth citizens, including the exemption of requirement to register with the local police, eligibility to serve in Her Majesty's Civil Service, and eligibility of voting in local, national and European elections. British nationals can be conferred British honours, receive peerages and become peers of the House of Lords. If they also hold the indefinite leave to remain, they are eligible to stand in election for the House of Commons of the United Kingdom and local government in the United Kingdom. Working holiday British nationals can apply to enter the United Kingdom on a working holiday visa under the Tier 5 Youth Mobility Scheme. They do not face an annual quota or require a government or employer as their sponsor in order to take part in the scheme. Any BNO applicants with funds of £1,600 or more and aged 18 €30 are eligible to apply. Working holiday visa holders are free to perform employment activities in the United Kingdom for up to 2 years. This privilege is shared by British Overseas Citizens and British Overseas Territories citizens, although all BOTCs became full British citizens on May 21, 2002. British citizenship British nationals can be registered as British citizens under Section 4 of the British Nationality Act 1981. They need to have either lived in the UK for at least 5 years and spent no more than 450 days abroad during that time, as well as no more than 90 days abroad in the last 12 months before the application, or worked in Crown service at any time. They get citizenship otherwise than by descent, and their children under 18 or future children born outside UK can also be British citizens. Registering as a British citizen has no effect on one's BNO status, and he is entitled to hold 2 British passports under different statuses at the same time. Restrictions. People's Republic of China equals. Although British nationals are British nationals under British nationality law, most of them are also of Chinese descent. As a result, all BNOs with Chinese ancestry, who were born or naturalized in Hong Kong, are dual nationals of UK and China due to a special legislation implanted in Hong Kong since the handover of sovereignty. One clause of the legislation granted Chinese nationality to those who were of Chinese descent and were born on Hong Kong soil, even after the handover, while the other clause declared all types of British nationalities acquired by the city's Chinese residents as illegitimate, including BNO, and British citizenship acquired through the BNSS. Moreover, China does not recognize dual nationality for its nationals, and Chinese authorities consider these dual nationals solely as Chinese nationals. Chinese nationality also cannot be terminated for Chinese descent residents holding BNO, or British citizenship acquired through the BNSS. As a result, BNOs are not entitled to British consular protection in mainland China, Hong Kong and Macau. During a high-profile case in April 2005, Ching Keong, a senior journalist of the Straits Times of Singapore with dual British national status and Chinese nationality, was detained by Chinese government for alleged espionage activities by providing state secrets to Taiwan. Until Ching's release in February 2008, the British government refused to provide consular protection, despite petitions by civil rights groups to the Foreign and Commonwealth Office. The FCO explained that they could provide assistance to Ching, but they simply could not intervene in the judicial proceedings of other countries. Republic of China equals. Only people who hold full British citizenship are treated as foreigners by the government of the Republic of China, and British nationals with Chinese ethnicity are treated as permanent residents of Hong Kong. Thus, BNOs are subject to entry restrictions as HKSAR passport holders. United Kingdom equals. British nationals are subject to immigration controls and do not have the right of abode in the UK. From April 6, 2015. All British nationals staying in UK for longer than 6 months will be required to pay a Euro health surcharge Euro unregistered trademark in order to access National Health Service benefits offered to permanent UK residents. The status of BNO was specially created for British Dependent Territories citizens of Hong Kong in 1985. Fearing a massive influx of immigrants from former British colonies, the Conservative government under Margaret Thatcher refused to grant the right of abode in the United Kingdom to residents of Hong Kong. The only exception is that a British national who was born before 1983 and has been a British citizen up to the same year, could renounce his British citizenship without losing right of abode in the UK. European Union equals. Under the European Union Directive of 1932/2006, British nationals were added to Annex 2 of Council Regulation No. 539/2001 as British citizens who are not nationals of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland for the purposes of community law for immigration purposes. An EU legislation named Visa Requirements for Nationals of Non-EU member countries provided BNO visa-free access to the European Union while specifying them as non-EU citizens. Criticism. The creation of a new class of British nationality was met with criticism from many Hong Kong residents who felt that British citizenship would have been more appropriate in light of the moral debt owed to them by the UK. Some British politicians and magazines also criticised the creation of BNO status. The British Nationality Law 1981 has been criticised by experts, as well as by the Committee on the Elimination of Racial Discrimination of the United Nations, on the grounds that the different classes of British nationality it created are, in fact, closely related to the ethnic origins of their holders. See also, travel documents, British passport, British national passport, Hong Kong Special Administrative Region passport, exit and entry permit, nationality laws, British Dependent Territories citizen, British nationality law and Hong Kong, nationality law of the People's Republic of China, other, visa requirements for British nationals, British Consulate General Hong Kong, second-class citizen, Sino-British Joint Declaration, national without household registration. Notes. References. Citations sources legal documents. Other materials. External links, British Consulate General Hong Kong, Lord Goldsmith QC Citizenship Reviewer Euro Citizenship, Our Common Bond, March 2008. News reporting the chaotic scene where people queuing for applying British national passports on March 30, 1996.